what's going on, everybody? We have a super special episode today. It's Veterans Day. I'm Paul Tully, this is the FYI podcast. We are live, and I am sitting here with 4 veterans and employees of National Corps. National Corps is the reason FYI is happening. I couldn't be more honored to be sitting here, not just because I'm sitting with people that are very important to the company, but fellow veterans. So we're going to get into a little conversation about why we all served, what it meant to us, and what the skills that we learned in service brought to our professional world today. So I'm going to start off with Robert. Mr. Diaz, how are you?
Good, Paul. Good to be with you.
Yeah, and it's great to have you here.
Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, happy Veterans Day. And as you just said, thank you for your service. I love the speech you just made in the other room in front of all the employees. It always does feel awkward, right, when people say, hey, thank you for your service. It's like, how does that make you? I'm always grateful, but it's like an awkward thing.
Yeah, it is. So, it happened to me yesterday, too. So I was in, actually, a church, and they called up the veterans to the front. And it was funny because my 3-year-old started crying when I walked away because she didn't know where I was going. Oh. But I got up to the front, and they thanked us for the service in front of everybody. And I've been out of service for a while, but it reminded me of what it was like when I was still in uniform, and people would come up and say, thank you for your service. And I was just always feeling like I'm not deserving of that. There are so many other people that have sacrificed or given more than I have. And that was just, I appreciate the sentiment that people give, but I think a common thing with veterans is that is always an interesting kind of comment or a thank you to get because the kind of mixed emotions that brings with it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I always respond with more of a thank you for letting me serve. It's such an honor to be able to wear the uniform. And I know for a guy like me, when I did join, I guess everybody's experience is different. For me, it was such a I was having tough times in my life, young, getting into trouble. So when I did join, it was really like a noble feeling. Like I remember my friends and family were so excited to see that I made that decision. Where I've talked to some vets and they're like, I didn't really have nothing going on. I joined. But for me, I had to lose 100 pounds to get in. I had to, I had been in trouble as a teenager. So I had to go get things fixed, paperwork. My recruiter went with me. It was like a really big deal to get in the military. So a lot of my college educated friends, at my age now, I have friends from all professions. They're always like, wow, I never thought of it that way. How, for some people, it's such you work so hard to get in there, and it meant so much to me to be able to wear the uniform and to do something greater than myself. So, so anyway, let's go down the line. Let's introduce ourselves, and maybe, so we have Robert Diaz.
I'm Robert Diaz. I'm the Executive Vice President here at National Corps.
Terry Kick, Floating Maintenance, Region 5, and everywhere else that needs help.
Eric Grimes, Accounting Manager.
Cory Demico, Construction.
And from Cory going back, let's say what branch we served in, or if you want to say your MOS or rank.
Let me see. Well, I was in the Army. My identifier is kind of different. I was 11 Bravo, 1 Victor. So I was in the Ranger Battalion for my time.
Wow.
Yeah, so for me, Eric Grimes, I was in the U.S. Army. My MOS was 92 Yankee, and also as a combat medic. I guess that's how I got into accounting. 92 Yankee is supply specialist, right?
Yeah.
So.
I was Navy, a Flight Tech Firefighter, crash and salvage team.
And I was in the Army and a JAG Officer, so a lawyer for the Army.
Fantastic. I was Navy. I started off as a undesignated sailor, so they put me in the reactor. I worked as a machinist mate for 2 years, and then I struck my rate 3rd class and became a SK supply. Worked on the flight deck. So yeah, it's great. JAG. I have a quick story about JAG. One day we're doing workups, and I'm throwing boxes. We're doing like a whole, we would do the Navy chain on the ship. So we're bringing supplies. This is like in our 2001 tour. We were off the coast of Afghanistan, working long hours, and I'm throwing boxes, and I'm loud. I'm like a loud person, you know. And this guy comes out of an office and just tears into me. And I'm like, I tear into him back. I have no idea who this person is, you know. Turned out he was a JAG officer on the ship. Let me tell you something. My chain of command came down on me like you couldn't believe. I had to go apologize to him in the mess deck in front of all the officers. It was a humbling experience. It was humbling. But could have been worse. So JAG definitely have power in there.
I guess you don't want to mess with the lawyers. I don't think I ever had anybody have to apologize to me in front of a group. Maybe that was a Navy JAG thing.
Could have been a Navy
You just
JAG.
needed to come over to the Army like the rest of us.
Yeah, that's maybe. I don't know. I was in love with the sea, man. Nothing like being on a ship and being out there and deployed. It's there's something really nothing compare. I think of those nights sometimes. Often I think about them like pitch black. You know, when you're on watch out there, and the Navy guy would know there, and it's like the closest you ever feel with God. I don't know. That's how it was for me, especially at that time, and it's right after 9/11. So it was just a crazy time in the country and in my life, and being young, and my son was only 3 years old, and being away from him and family, and but yeah, I don't know. So I love the Navy. I love the Navy.
You know, I'm super curious because you mentioned that, and I wonder what these fine gentlemen would say. But because you were talking about things that, like a specific thing that you remember about being on a ship, and every now and then there are moments where I like walk out the door, or there'll be something that happens during the day, and it takes me right back to when I was in the service. And for me, it's like really early in the mornings when I get up and nobody else is
Everyone's
awake,
asleep.
and I just remember, I'd be going to PT.
Yeah.
Right now, right? And there's moments that are like where it comes back and it hits me, and even though I didn't always want to go to PT in those moments, like it comes back, and now it's like one of those things that you kind of miss.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, if for you it sounds like it was like those moments on the ship, but if there are other moments like that for these guys where you feel like where it brings it back to you, like a
Being on the flight deck too, it'd be pitch black, all the aircraft are taken off, and you're just sitting there with the rock of the ship, and it's peaceful and terrifying at the same time.
Right.
It's you don't know what's around the corner when that next aircraft's coming into land, but you just get lost in the peace and the rock of the ship.
Yeah.
I would say for me, being in the field, like you guys being on the ship, but for me, being out in the field for a couple weeks, you got your rucksack, sleeping bags, and we have to like issue out ammunition and weapons and do training for a couple weeks, and it's like you miss your bunk, right? It's like you never think, I really miss this bunk, right? It's like, I want to get back. So then, and even sometimes in the field, they will give us an extra week. We have a day, okay, it's going to end this day, and then now it's another week. So it's like, oh man, we're in the field. So we really got used to being out in the field and training.
Yeah.
So
Well, now my son serves, so we talk a lot about the military and what he's up to, and it brings back memories, and I mean really good memories. He's in special operations as well, so I get to listen to him. Hey, I just got done with the free fall jump, and you're just like, man, I miss that part of it.
Yeah.
There's so much fun that you can have in the military. A lot of it has. I mean, it's a suck fest in a lot of parts.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I've been through many things and tortured in many different ways, but the fun that you get to have, it's unmatchable. I mean, there's nothing that I've ever done that compares to the things I got to do when I was in service.
Yeah, I have conversations all the time. I mean, I'm in the I'm an actor and a filmmaker now, so a lot of the people in my network did not serve. I mean, especially the young people I talk to that I work with, and young actors that are coming up, they mostly go through schooling, and they're coming out of the USCs and the big schools, the NYU, the Tishes, and we talk. They're asked about that, like they're saying, I thought about like joining at one time in my life, and I say, I think it's a calling if you decide to go with it. But I think when I have memories back, it's like anyone who went through just went through school. It's like it's a reminder of our youth, is what I'm trying to say. I think when I hear stories like that, like jumping out of planes, and when I think of those nights deployed and then hitting Liberty ports and with my brothers and it's just like a reminder of a time that I miss. The young, the unexpected, the not knowing. But I think everybody, that's what I'm trying to say, is I think everybody feels that. Like, even if you didn't join the military and, you know, you hit 40 or, you know, I'm above 40, and you just, it's reminders, you know, and I think that's one thing we all have in common, whether you're a veteran or not. It's you know, it's just we made a choice to go that way. Speaking of, going down the line, what was the reasoning that you decided to join and wear uniform?
Yeah, interesting. So for me, because I joined in 2002, so 9/11 had happened, and so just time-wise, people just assumed that I joined because it was right after 9/11, but I actually applied for my commission like 1 month, almost to the day before September 11th happened. And so it happened when I was waiting, but it wasn't why. For me, it was, I just had a long history of military service in my family. So I had people that served in World War II, in Korea, decent number of folks in Vietnam. And so there was just a long history. And so there was just kind of this sentiment of service, I think, that permeated our family. And I just had always wanted to serve. And so it just eventually, I just didn't have a good reason not to do it anymore. And I did it after I was already practicing. As a lawyer, I'd already gone through law school, had my civilian job already.
Wow.
But it was just one of those things where it was just gnawing at me. I just felt like like a calling. I just wanted to do it, and I just always felt like, nah, the career. And eventually I just said, no, not the career. Now it's time to do this. And that was it for me.
Wow, I love that.
For me, I'm going to bring another Corps employee under the bus with me here. Travis Haskin, longtime best friend. We signed up together. We went to late entry. We were actually pseudo-enlisted before our senior year of high school. Nice. So it's just something that we decided to do together. I don't know my whole family tree, but to recollection, third generation. So it's kind of just a higher calling to do something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, coming out of high school, I was a explorer with the sheriff department. So, I wanted to be a deputy sheriff. So, my father was in the Air Force, and so I say, hey, I want to go into the military. And I would say also the benefits of school, like the GI Bill. That was like number one, because I was able to obtain 2 degrees. And I would never have that chance to do that without the military, the U.S. Army. So
I'm going to have to say my story is a lot more like yours. Came out of high school, pretty much rudderless, didn't know what I wanted to do. I was not the best student or the best teenager, I would say. Definitely gave my parents a lot of grief. And, my mother passed away when I was 17, and I decided that I needed something in my life that was going to give me a focus and purpose. So, I went to the recruiter and asked him to put me in something that was the hardest thing that I could possibly do, and he obliged.
No problem.
Said, I got a job.
I got a job for you, son.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Chris Kyle when watching American Sniper. I don't know if you ever watched the movie, but he goes in and he just said, I want to do the toughest thing. And the Navy recruiter said, oh. And he said, have you heard of the SEALs? And then that's why Chris Kyle went, joined the Navy SEALs. And so it reminds me of that. It's like the recruiters are ready for it. Like, okay. Yeah, I had some really cool recruiters. And, yeah, that's another job that's just for the recruiters out there. What an amazing job they do, just going out and educating the youth on what the military could provide for them. Because, the military, I think, listen, I promoted it for my son. He decided to go the college route. He got a football scholarship, went to Montana, My nephew did join. My nephew joined the Marines. He's out now. My niece just joined the Army. She's been in 6 months. My goddaughter's sister joined the Marines. I promote the military a lot. I think it's an amazing, amazing place. Especially if you're young and you don't know exactly, where you're going. Like, that's amazing, Robert, hearing your story that you already had went through law school and stuff, and it was, and still you had the calling. A lot of young people, it's like, I think it definitely gives them direction and the benefits. In America, it's still the best benefits that are out there. So yes, I'm pro-military. So you joined. I want to ask a question. What skills? How do you feel your skills that you learned in the military help you now in the civilian world, and what have you been able to bring to specifically Corps?
You'll start with me. So I think the first thing for me is just the concept of leadership and leading by example. I think there's no better schooling that you can go to anywhere that kind of teaches you what that means and how leadership means. It's not about you. It means about the troops or the sailors or the people that you're serving next to. Leadership is about them first and you last, and trying to lead and to do stuff in that model is something I think I've always taken away. I always have to catch myself sometimes, because I'll be in a meeting and I'll say, well, in the Army, and then I realize nobody wants to hear me say, like, in the Army. Like, oh, there goes Robert again. But it's hard, right? I think because you take so much of it with you, and it's early training, and we were all younger when we did it. So it was just part of, like, my education on how to kind of view myself and how to try to achieve. And I think we fail a lot, but that's I think the first thing, and the most important thing that I still have with me, I think.
Yeah, it's great qualities.
For me, being the flight tech firefighter is just, awareness. And then being in the Navy exposed me to a lot of different cultures and people working with. So it's just, everybody has a story, everybody has a reason, and you don't know that unless you get to talk to them. So just being open-minded, I think, was my biggest takeaway. Because we're here in Rancho right now. This is where I grew up. So living here, working here again, the Navy was by far my biggest exposure in life. Then transferring into the Army, I was with a vertical construction company. So that's where I got my hands on tools, and now that's why I'm in maintenance now.
Is that like CBs?
Yeah, we're ground up.
Got it.
So, Los Alamitos, we were kind of in charge of rehabbing that base for a while. And then as I was exiting, we were partnering up with a horizontal construction company, so they were like sidewalk to sidewalk. So we were all around. We could go build a small city.
Nice. Amazing.
I would say for me, first, just respect, just being able to respect others, respecting leadership, and just listening, a skill of listening, being able to listen, take orders, take directions. That's very important. And also just being a team, working as a teammate, being part of a team, that was definitely something that has helped me now.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with the teamwork part 100%. I mean, your team in the military is everything. Yeah. And now that I'm in construction here, our team is everything. And it's not only about leadership, it's about knowing when to sit back and know when to follow. Take the direction and take that leader's knowledge and expertise and put it in your brain for when you have a situation that's similar. So it's being adaptable. That's part of the the military training that I can bring to wherever I go, is being adaptable, learning quickly on my feet, and integrating into the team as quick as possible.
Yeah. I would say, I just thought of battle buddies, like having a battle buddy, someone you could rely on, someone that has your back. And even now, today, here I do that with another accounting manager, Adolfo. Like, he's my battle buddy. I rely on him, questions, anything. We always help each other out. So that's that is a skill,
Yeah.
coming from the military that I picked up. So
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I just posted a video this morning on my social media, and it's like a old video. I had took mini DVDs back on our first deployment in 2001, and after 9/11, we were the second ship. I was just talking to Terry. We were the second ship in rotation after the Carl Vinson was the Stennis, and I took all these videos, and I just had them transferred onto onto digital. So I posted a video of just us. We were so young, and like Pamela Anderson and Kid Rock had come on the ship. It's like 2002 when we pulled in for like a morale boost, and had all these videos, and it made me think. It was like, as I'm going through on the video, it's like all these different male and female sailors on the ship from different parts of the country. So we had like. So in our berthing, we had a berthing with like 200 people on the ship. 200 men slept in this berthing, and just ours alone, we had 5,500 sailors on the ship. And we had what we would call like East Los was one side. It'd be all the like Mexican guys would be hanging out listening to like banda music. Then you had like the guys from New York City over here, and then you had like the guys from Texas that were really proud. Then you had like. But what was crazy is you had this whole mixture of different cultures, different religions, different faiths. We had this guy, Hitesh Gupta, a good friend of mine, ended up being my roommate for a while in San Diego. He was Hindu, and him and my other buddy was Pakistani, and they'd fight over whose country had better weapons, India or Pakistan. Meanwhile, they're both in the U.S. military. We were just a melting pot of awesome, crazy people. We would, tease each other, but when we went out in town, we were like this.
Yes, close, yes.
And I took that with me as, like you mentioned, being here from the Inland Empire, and it's like, you go into the military and you meet, like, when else are you going to be sleeping next to somebody from Detroit or somebody from, Austin, Texas, or the Bronx, New York, or South Central LA? And that was one of the most, I think, without me knowing, I think that was one of the most important assets I took from the military, was to be able to be amongst people of all different beliefs, political beliefs, faiths, races, cultures, and learn that like we still have one thing in common, and that's brotherhood, sisterhood, love, humanity, and let's get the job done and do what's best for this. So I don't know, I try to bring that into my everyday life. I want to ask you guys, National Corps, amazing company. How do you feel about the core values? Do they align with what you learn in the military, what Corps is doing in the world, and I mean, obviously, what we do as a whole for, people in the housing and low income?
I'll start, Paul. So I think, when we were talking with our team out here, so I mentioned some of this, but I really believe it. So I think at its essence, what we do here at National Corps is service. It's service of a different type, but it is still service to the community. In the military, our service is to the entirety of the nation. At National Corps, our service is to specific components of our community that maybe have been left behind, or those that have the most need. And so the part that is most similar is you could choose to work anywhere, right? But we are here to service our residents, right? And to make sure that we're providing a platform that can transform their lives, transforms generationally for them, for their children. And if you're committed to it, your service here is and can be as meaningful, right, to the person that works here, as much so as it was when we were working in the military, because it helps to provide, I think, more meaning even behind what we do on a day-to-day basis. So there, I think there's some really strong similarities in the concept of service, just applied a little bit differently.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I really like what Robert had to say, and I think through all the branches, commitment is one of the biggest core values. Yeah. You don't go into the military to do things halfway, and with National Corps, it's a privilege to help others, and you come here and you're committed to that. I'm knocking on residents' doors every day, and I'm, hey, you need help with this. I'm here to help you today. Like, what can we do for you? And it's just, you have to be invested.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, like what Terry and Robert said, like just community, just working, being there for the residents, right? And like, my department, like I always say we support, property management, we support what others do on the field, but not just my department, every department, right? We have, compliance, asset management, construction, development, like everyone's on the same page working together for that common goal for our residents.
Yeah.
So that's important.
I think all of us as veterans, we search in our civilian lives for purpose, something that's bigger than ourselves, something that we can throw ourselves into like we did our military service. And that service is what almost defines us as people. I can say, working for National Corps, I have finally found somewhere that I'm proud to get up every day and go to work, because it's more than just construction. It is building a community for people in need, and it is a very fulfilling a place for me to work, and that makes me want to work even harder.
Yeah, I love that. So it's interesting. So I'm curious if you guys, because this isn't the only place some of you guys have ever worked. I wonder if you have had the similar experience, or even you, Paul. But I remember when I came back, so I got mobilized. I went overseas. I came back, and I went back to my regular job because I was a reservist. I just got called up for a while. But then I came back, and I went back to my regular job. I went back to my regular job, and I remember thinking, this is terrible. Right? And the place wasn't terrible. It's just that I remember thinking, like, what did I leave behind? Right? Because I just come from a place where everybody was working as a team on the same goal. The goal was understood. And then I came back and I thought, all of it's gone. Because I was working in a place where it was a professional place, great professionals all working hard to serve their clients, but I didn't know what the mission was anymore. And I didn't last very long, right? So I didn't last very long there because I just thought I can't do that anymore, because I felt that something was missing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. When I first got out, I had did a slew of different jobs. I had got, I did retail, sales. I worked in a jewelry store for a few years. I got into home loans. I became a loan officer for a while, and nothing really felt fulfilling. Like, I thought maybe if I get into the mortgage business, make some money, I'll feel better. Nothing felt good until I found acting at 30 years old. I went back on a GI Bill. I was like, if we don't use... At the time, you couldn't give your GI Bill to your kid. So it was either use it or lose it. You had 10 years to use it. And I was like at year 5 or 4, I had been out. And I thought, man, use your GI Bill. Go back to school. And that's when I found theater. And I would say I started my own theater company. That was the first time I felt not the same as the military, but in theater, it is that way. You find a lot of artists are working for no money, and we're working as a team to build sets, to analyze scripts, and it's different than the military, but I did find some fulfillment that made me feel like I was with a team. And that's really one of the reasons I started pursuing, and then I turned into getting into filmmaking and making movies. But the idea was theater was the first time I felt like, oh, wait, this is kind of like what we had, like all hands on deck. We were building sets, buying costumes, doing everything together for no money. And it was, it was like, wow, this is pretty, And then, obviously, being a resident of the Corps really helped. I was at financially a really tough time in life, and being able to get into a National Corps, a building, and get some dignity and pride. I had been renting a couch for a while, and I was like, just getting into finding work and landing that apartment brought me so much more. Like you said, everything that you gentlemen have just said that you do brought me personally in my life was a place to have a roof over my head and a clean, nice home that I could afford, and get by. So I thank you gentlemen for that. So if nobody else does, I definitely do, because you've definitely given me some room to breathe in life, and a good feeling coming home to a really beautiful building. And I love where I live. So it's definitely working. Thank you guys all for that. Not just your service, but the service you keep doing. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be involved with National Corps, and then to be able to get this podcast going has also, it just elevated things. I didn't know I'd want to do a podcast when this all first came about with Mr. Berm and Jill, and it was like, okay, maybe we could inspire some people. And it's definitely, this last year and a half has been incredible, and meeting people and talking to people from all walks of life has just opened my eyes to so many other, it's like everything we just talked about. Like when I said being in the military, I got to meet people from all different places. That's what this podcast has been doing. I've been sitting down with, I meet everybody on this podcast, from from plumbers to actors to athletes to, lawyers, and you start seeing different cultures, different experiences, and it's really been phenomenal, and thanks to Corps.
No, it's fantastic. So, and what you really just have is a megaphone to kind of shout out the message of what we're trying to do here at National Corps, and you're doing a great job there, Paul.
Thank you, Robert.
But it's beautiful, right? Because it's the message of transformation. And what you're doing is just talking about finding the inspiration to have your own transformation, whichever way that might be. And that's what we try to do here, right? So at National Corps, it's all about finding a way to transform those lives, those communities, one building at a time, one resident at a time, one story at a time, right? So this is just an excellent way of just being able to keep pushing that mission out and just finding another way to serve.
Yeah. Wow. I thank you guys. As we start to wrap up, what I normally do when I have guests on the show, I normally have them look at the camera and tell the audience, give them a message. What inspires you? So I'm going to do the same with you guys. You're not going to get out of it. Same. So we'll go one at a time. You can hit that middle camera. Tell an audience member that's listening out there, somebody that's looking for purpose, that's looking for all the things that we were able to find, not just in the service, but here at Corps. What message would you have for them to find their inspiration to maybe get out of the box they feel they're in?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is, if on a day like today, if you find a veteran and you're going to say thank you for your service, I just encourage you to find your own way to serve, however that might be, small. Find some place to go volunteer, find some place to make a difference, even if it's only for a day. And then, that day can become something else. And that little bit of service that you can do for somebody else, it may be not as important to you, but you never know what kind of an impact that's going to have on somebody else. So on a day that's meant to celebrate service for veterans, I think the challenge from a veteran back would be just find your own way to serve.
Yeah. For me, it's just find something that makes you wake up every day and gives you a purpose. Me being here, I joined Corps on my second application, so there was something made me come back, and it was, like I said, what I do. I get to knock on somebody's door and help them for the day. It's wake up and have something that makes you want to wake up.
And I agree. Just really, finding your passion in something that you want to do. Just being able to contribute and give back. For me, just at the time being a young man, the Army was it for me. Somewhere where I can learn skills and, just give back to the country. That was very important for me. So I would say passion.
I would say, no matter where you are in life and what you're doing, if you can focus on doing it to the best of your ability, and then, mastering that part of your life, and then transferring it to something else that you're interested in, and mastering that. If you can be and strive to be the best you that you can be, you're a winner. That's where you win. And that's where you're going to completely and totally excel in life, is just keep on pushing yourself to be the best person that you can be.
I love that message, gentlemen. I want to thank you again. I also want to close out. Dakota Meyer mentioned he sat on the podcast. And I remember saying to him, sit next to this Medal of Honor recipient, I'm thinking, I felt this big, I'm thinking, man, what's my service like compared to this guy who did, and he said to me, He said, everybody, it doesn't matter about the incident. Everybody does their part. Most importantly, he said, that I took was, you know, we are veterans. We served at that moment in time. You know, that doesn't define just who we are. We served and wore a uniform at that time. But what do we do out of uniform? That matters. So you're a veteran all the time. And it's basically everything you gentlemen just said. Literally, each one of you, without even thinking of that message from him, said the same thing. It's how do we go out and do something today? So whether you're wore a uniform or not, that's what today is about. That's what it should all be about. That's what the communal experience should be about, right? It's doing something for others each day, which is what you're all doing. And I think as a veteran, I try to remind myself every day that instead of living in just I wore this uniform and looking at pictures of being young and thin and fit, it's like I'm still that guy today. And what am I doing today with that same spirit that I did when I took the oath? And that's to make the world a better place, a little bit at a time. All of you are doing it here at Corps. I hope everybody out there takes this episode and goes out and hold a door for someone, smile to someone, say good morning to someone. Any little thing, you know, you do could make just somebody else's day a little bit better. And I think that's the purpose, right? That's service. So thank you, gentlemen. Yes.
I got one thing, Paul. So here at National Corps, so for anybody that's been in the military, you know what a challenge coin is.
Of course.
Right, so we created our own challenge coin here at National Corps and Hope Through Housing. And we give them out to folks, obviously, where the service has merited. And so on behalf of National Corps, we wanted to present you with our challenge coin for your service, for what you're doing for us now, and for your service as a veteran.
Oh, man, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Corps. Wow, that's beautiful. Wow, how cool is that? Thank you. Means a lot. Accepted.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Happy Veterans Day, gentlemen. And happy Veterans Day to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. This is this was a treat. You know, this is different than the other episodes we done, to sit amongst my brothers here and hear their stories, and it's just a reminder of what I could do today and what I will do, and that's to strive to always do a little bit of service and shed some smiles. So see you on the next one. Paul Tully with the FYI podcast. It's great, man. Thank you. That was cool.